Philadelphia Eagles, number 3 on the composite grades and A+ from PFF. And the hashtag Howie does it again. Eagles sit there at 22. They get, I think, the top corner in the draft, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. They double up at corner. Cooper DeJean from Iowa at pick 40, a guy that was rumored to go in the first round. Trevor's guy loves Cooper DeJean, so doubling up at corner for the Eagles. Other Sam favorite, Will Shipley, running back out of Clemson in round 4. Steve favorite, Jeremiah Trotter from Clemson in round 5. And then they finish it off with wide receiver Johnny Wilson from Florida State, center Dylan McMahon from NC State. Really nice draft all around, again, for the Eagles.
Yeah, hard not to like this draft. Even if, it gets such an amazing grade for PFF in large part because Cooper Mustard was Trevor's number 8 overall player in the draft. So it thinks that's one of the steals of the draft. I honestly think where they drafted him was kind of the right area for where he should have gone because I don't know that they are convinced that he's an outside corner, right? And if you're not, so the thing about the Mustard evaluation is if you don't think he's an outside corner, if you look at his tape and you say that sort of hip stiffness and lack of change of direction on outside corner things is a little concerning, and I don't know if you can play him outside, which a lot of people thought, not just me. Chris Sims thought the same thing. You'll read that in a bunch of scouting reports. It sort of questions that, right? And that was the one thing we didn't get any measurable data on because he didn't do those change of direction things. No 3-cone, no short shuttle, which may have been the medical stuff, right? He was only just cleared. But the point is, it remains an unknown element of his game. So if you look at that and you say, I don't know if he can play outside corner, then all of his outside corner tape in college is kind of irrelevant. And now we're projecting him to safety and him to the slot, which is a difficult thing to do. And it's guesswork to a degree, right? So at that point, I don't think you can put him in the middle of the first round. I think you have to start saying this is more of a projection than we're comfortable with. We like his size. We like his athleticism. We like what he's doing in these roles in college. And we think that will apply or translate to this role at the next level. But like Kyle Hamilton went towards the bottom of the first round with all the evidence he was a superstar doing that stuff, right? So if that's the kind of role you envisage for him, but without any of that tape, I think this is a fair spot for him to go.
Is another comp, is it Minkah Fitzpatrick when he came out? Because Minkah played in the slot at Alabama, and some people were like, well, let's kick him out
or
to
Brian
corner.
Branch. You're right. But
he's
Minkah,
bigger. Minkah's more of a size comp.
Yeah, no, Minkah's a good version of that because you are projecting what he did. He did a different role in college than he was going to do at the NFL. And actually, the NFL screwed it up the first time around, right? The Miami Dolphins
they kept him at nickel. He struggled,
They didn't use him in the right way. And then it was only when he moved to sort of free safety that you got the best version of him. But, yeah, I think that's a reasonable comp in terms of and that might explain where he was drafted relative to where DeJean, Mustard.
Coopers,
yeah. Where Minkah, the Dolphins evidently planned to keep him in the role that they'd seen all the tape in, right? It just didn't work that well. And it was actually the projection that ended up getting the best version of him. Look, I think the point being, given the question marks around Cooper DeJean, Mustard, 40 overall is where he should have gone, which makes it a decent pick, not like the best value pick of the entire draft. Quinyon Mitchell at 22 to me is a much better value pick than Mustard in the second round. But then the draft just kept going. Jalix Hunt in the third round is he's one of the most fascinating prospects in this entire draft. His tape is comical in college. It's literally
Houston Christian.
Yeah, it's literally like taking any random NFL edge rusher you can think of, like legitimate NFL edge rusher athlete, and just saying, go play at a ridiculously terrible level in college. Just see what the tape looks like, right? That's what his tape is. He was not tested at all. There were multiple reps where he was able to simply run around the offensive tackle without even having to attempt to move. Just, I can run all the way around you and get to the quarterback before you can even get to the landmark. That's how impressive that's how big a disparity the athleticism was. So you're going to take a guy who's got legitimate NFL athleticism and tools and just see if he can play the game, because his college tape doesn't really give you a good indicator of that. And then Will Shipley, we mentioned that. I love him as a running back prospect. I think he's a really, really good player. And then Johnny Wilson in the 6th round. People were going a bit crazy on Johnny Wilson, I think. Like, some people love that guy. Josh Norris loves him from Underdog. Thinks he's an amazing receiver. Like, look at his size, look at his movement skills.
He was 113 on the consensus board.
Yeah.
By draft
So,
day.
I mean, I think some people were going a bit overboard, but to get him in the 6th round is a phenomenal steal.
Yeah, just to go back through some of those players, I think Quinyon Mitchell also in Vic Fangio's scheme here. I mean, Quinyon is an off-coverage player, reads receivers extremely well, breaks on the ball, showed at the Senior Bowl that he could also play press. Probably doesn't have to do that as much in this system anyway,
Yeah.
So it's a great scheme fit. I think the storyline to keep an eye on here is I thought if Mitchell went in the top 10, I don't think that would have been crazy. I don't know if it was because there was 4 or 5 first-round caliber corners that they dropped. I don't know if it's because the league is devaluing the position a little bit, both on the market, in the marketplace, and in the draft. But I think it's a steal at 22. And as far as DeJean goes, I like the fact that they still have. I don't know what they're going to do after the draft. If there are cuts coming as far as James Bradbury, if there are still moves to be made as far as James Bradbury and Darius Slay, and now the Quinyon Mitchell selection. But DeJean can play multiple roles, maybe even learn from C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's played that nickel/safety role. So I just like the fact that they could fit those pieces as needed because of some perceived depth there. The other guy to highlight too, as I mentioned, Jeremiah Trotter from Clemson. I really thought he was going to be a 1st or 2nd round pick last year coming in, and then people soured on him a little bit. He looked a little off from a coverage standpoint last year. He's almost when you watch linebackers, sometimes he's patient to a fault. I think either reading plays or in coverage, or he's often in position but a little bit late to react. But man, he plays like an old school thumper to me, but in a smaller body. So I think Trotter can do some damage in the run game, and just has to be a tick faster reacting in coverage. But he's been very productive at Clemson, and the model really liked him. So I love that. As a model guy, at pick 155, I'm a big fan of that.
And for the first time, I get to dive into the undrafted free agent tracker and say that Philadelphia drafted or undrafted signed Kendall Milton from Georgia. I liked him as a running back prospect.
Oh, I didn't get my chance to explain Leonard Taylor III for the Jets.
But
I don't want to screw up the Eagles one-off video right here. So I will not talk about Leonard Taylor.
They also got Gabe Hall, who is just, I mean, he's not a good player, but he's an interesting body type and athlete.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of players who started to get hyped up who I was like, I don't think they should go. Nothing against the player. I don't think they should go in round 3 or 4. I thought Gabe Hall was a guy that was going to get some of that hype. But developmental UDFA, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, another classic like 3-4 defensive end shape in a league that isn't doing that anymore. Has the traits, just wasn't particularly good.
The other thing to add about Johnny Wilson as a 6'7" wide receiver, add that to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They added Devontae Parker. I don't know when and if Johnny Wilson sees the field.
Right.
But I like him in a situation where can he be the 5th target and a specialization type of role, specialist type of role. I think that all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing, Dylan McMahon I pegged as the upside interior offensive lineman.
There you go.
With his athleticism, so could develop into the next Jason Kelsey with his workout.
Wow.
So there you go.
So hard not to like this draft.
I'm not saying he will, but hard not to like it.
Sounded like what you were saying.